So hello and welcome back. Today we are talking about candlesticks, and I really want to stress the importance of not being too fixed on the regular candlestick patterns. Most traders, they read the same books and then they think that they have to remember hundreds or at least dozens of different candlestick formations, but this is not true and it's not helpful for your trading. And in this video I will show you what instead you have to focus on and how you can understand any candlestick pattern or formation. So when we talk about candlesticks, there are four elements of a candlestick, and first I will go over this with you, and then we will take a look at a few chart examples and how to interpret price action. So the first one is the size of the body, which means just here the candle from the open to the close, and the second is the length of the wicks or candle shadows, whatever you want to call that. Then the third element is the ratio between the wicks and the bodies, which means do you have a longer wick or a stronger body on a candle, and this can tell us a lot as well, as you will see. And the fourth is the position of the body, which means is the body more located at the top or is the body located at the bottom. As you can see here, the body is at the complete bottom, whereas here the body is more at the top. And the last important point is that it's all about context. You cannot just look at one individual candlestick and then make a trading decision, but you always have to look at the whole picture, what has happened in the past. So a lot is about context and how does the current candlestick compare to the recent or the most recent price action history. So in this context, we can see this is a very long candle when we compare it to the previous price action, and it means that there's a high momentum, whereas here you can see the candles are usually roughly the same size in this area. And this is a very different picture without lots of momentum, price is just drifting along. Then here suddenly we have a stronger candle, and this is then even followed by a more strong candle. So you can see here that here during this area there is no momentum, price is just slowly drifting along. Then here we suddenly have a strong momentum candle, which is also breaking here the previous support area. You can see that very nicely if we draw here our support area. And here we break it. This is a very high momentum bar, this one, which this is breaking the support. It is closing at the absolute low of the candle, which is one of the points here. The ratio between the wicks and the bodies. There's almost no wick here, and it is the whole candle is a complete body, and the next one as well. You can see here this then foreshadowed this downward move until we reach here this area at the bottom, where suddenly you can see we are having more bullish bars here as well, not only bearish bars anymore. The candles are becoming smaller here, especially at the bottom. Once we look at this, we can see that we are suddenly seeing also more wicks, whereas here we did have more bodies during the downtrend, and this is then showing us that the downtrend is slowing here in momentum. And then we have suddenly here bullish bars closing at the top of the candle here. We do have a rejection at the bottom, and this is then showing us that now are the bulls in control, and this is then foreshadowing this move here back into the previous resistance or the support, which is now turning into resistance. You can see once price then reaches this resistance area, we have a very small candle, which means that there's probably not a lot of buying and not enough buying to break through this support or resistance level. And then here we have a reversal. So let's take a look at another scenario. So we are here in an uptrend. You can see that is very clear. And when we look deeper into this uptrend, we can see a lot from the candlesticks. So here we have very strong bullish bars. The bullish bars are closing almost at the very top here always. There are almost no wicks. And this means that there is a very strong trend. During strong trending phases, you will often see long candles with very short wicks, which is confirming the momentum. But then here suddenly something is changing. When we look here, we can see two candles here with very, very long wicks to the downside. This was an attempt of the sellers to drive price lower. So for now they were rejected, but you can already see that there was a sell-off attempt here, and this is very different from what we have seen here, whereas we did not have any wicks to the downside here. Suddenly we are seeing wicks And then when we look at the top here, we can see that then here the candles are becoming smaller compared to what we have seen here. The bodies are becoming smaller, we have more wicks, and small bodies and longer wicks always mean indecision in the market, more volatility, and this we can often observe after long trending phases when the end of a trend is near or even a reversal. And that's exactly what happened. You can see here we did have those wicks to the upside, price tried to push higher, it was rejected. Then we have here this strong selling candle, which is showing that now the momentum is really shifting. The bears are strong enough to push price that low, closing at the absolute or at the almost absolute low of the candle, almost no wick. And then this foreshadowed here this very nice sell-off afterwards. So you can see how we can get a lot of information just looking at the candlesticks, the wicks, the bodies, and the size, and then make up our mind and see how such a trend is going from uptrend to consolidation and then downtrend. And this is also one of the ways how I analyze the charts in my own trading. And if you are one of our pro members, then you will know that. And we use this momentum analysis also to form our trade ideas. Here we can take a look at another example. So here we were first in a downtrend, and you can see here throughout this whole downtrend we only had bearish bars, very occasionally one very small bullish bar, not meaningful, one small body, two wicks, which means that it's an indecision candle where market is just pausing, but we are here on the 4-hour chart, and on a 4-hour chart it's quite normal to have from time to time those little candles here. Usually you have them once or twice per day during the inactive trading sessions, and that's totally normal. It is not a thing to worry about just yet. And you can see here the downtrend resumed. Price continued to sell off, very strong candles, very long candles as well. And then here at the bottom, you can see here is then this major wick, which is a rejection bar. You can see the sellers try to push price as low as here, and then the bulls came in and pushed price back up. When we look a little bit to the left, you can see that here seems to be some type of support area, which then makes sense to have an attempt to break it, and then the sellers were not as strong. And the next candle here is then even more interesting. So this rejection is not enough to consider a long trade. It is the first indication that maybe the sellers are not as strong as they were here previously. And then the next candle shows us that now we are actually seeing more bullish momentum, that the price or the candle is able to close at a higher price. So you can see the first really strong bullish bar after this rejection. Still, we do have some type of wick here, and this shows us that now the bulls are not ready yet. But then here on the next two candles, you can see another sell-off attempt here, a wick to the downside. The buyers came and pushed price back up. We closed at the very top or at the almost very top. And then here you have this very nice sell-off back into the previous highs. Very interesting. And then here at the highs, you can see we have a rejection here, a small bullish bar closing at the very top. It does look not too bad. At that point, it probably looked like there's a good chance of breaking this level. But then on the next candle here, you can see that suddenly the sellers come in, and just look at here what has happened previously. We have never seen any bearish action or any bearish candlestick that is as strong as this one here. So we have to go back until here to see that. But here was in the middle of a trend. Here it is at a strategic, very interesting location with a previous resistance area. So this small rejection and now this long bearish bar makes a lot of sense in this context. And then price sold off afterwards. And now we can take a look at a final example, and here we were first in this downtrend, and during this downtrend we had mostly bearish bars. The candles were closing almost at the very bottom, always very small wicks, and just here one time we did have a bullish bar. But then here, when we move into this area, you can see that the candles are becoming smaller, and this is a first warning signal. Whenever you see in a trending phase that the candle bodies are becoming smaller, it means, or it can mean, that the momentum is slowing. At the same time, we are now starting to see wicks here, which are failed breakout attempts or failed attempts to push price lower. Then here on the next few candles, we can see that price is turning around here, and price is moving into this previous support and resistance area. So support is now turning into resistance. Price is not able to push higher. We can see that here with this little bullish, with this little bearish rejection bar. You can see it is smaller than the previous one, so probably not as meaningful, but it's the first good indication that here price seems to be finding some type of resistance now. And then very interesting, price keeps bumping back into this support area. Price pushes a few times into this. You can see that very strong move down, then we get pushed back up. We move back into this, we got pushed back up a little bit. We move back in just afterwards, but then we get pushed back up. But it is also very important to note here that at this point, price is always making lower highs. So you can see that price is somewhat gravitating towards this area. So there is, or this level is acting like a magnet, is always pulling price in, and price has a harder and harder time to pull away from this level. So this is a good clue that it seems that the break to the downside is more likely than a move to the upside. And then here you can see just before we break this level, price is then showing more bearish bars. Suddenly we are just starting to put in a series of bearish candlesticks closing at almost the very lows. Then this candle here is finally breaking this area here. It's closing below the previous candlesticks. And whereas we were previously always able to reject this level, now price is actually finding enough selling momentum to push price through this level. And then we have this follow through here to the downside. And so you can see how we can use those 4 candlestick elements to basically understand every price chart. Of course, we need a little bit more knowledge like support and resistance, supply and demand, and also a little bit of momentum analysis, but it's a very good starting point, and it just highlights that you don't need to spend time or waste time trying to remember random candlestick patterns, and instead just try to understand what is the price chart showing you, what are the candlesticks showing you. Try to understand who is in control, who does look stronger on your charts, bulls or bears, how are the candles closing, are they closing near the top or at the low, do you see a lot of wicks or indecision, lots of volatility, what do the rejection bars tell you, where is it happening as well, do we see interesting signals around support and resistance levels, previous swing highs and lows, and then you have already a very, very good basis for your price analysis, and you can understand and read charts in a much better way. And of course, if you have any questions, leave a comment below. I'll also put a link in the description to the recent article that I wrote about candlesticks and the 4 elements of candlesticks, and I will go into more detail there as well. Thank you for watching and happy trading.